Tuition is out of sight, up more than 40%.
An awful milestone. Our nation's combined student loan debt has now hit $1 trillion.
It's dragging down our young people, and it is dragging down the economy.
These days, a college degree is not really worth the trouble.
The problem of debt is not a single problem. You know, you can go to this big number of $1 trillion and say that's an extraordinary amount of money, and that is a large amount of money that people owe. But then you have to question, you have to ask how many people have borrowed that amount of money, what's the typical loan, what's the large loan, and who's having problems with paying that back. And the counterintuitive thing is that it's not the person, by and large, it's not those who've borrowed the most money who are having trouble paying it back. You know, you read the spectacular stories about someone who went to NYU and borrowed $120,000 and now can't pay it back because they borrowed too much to get a college degree. But most of those in the United States who owe large amounts of money like that for their education borrowed it to go to medical school, law school, or business school. And they are in a position to pay it back. Students who went to a four-year college and owe the average amount of debt of $25,000 to $30,000 mostly are in a good position to pay that back over time, especially now that there are income contingent payment plans where your payment is not a fixed amount based on what you borrowed, but it's a percentage of your discretionary income. So if you're earning more, you pay back at a faster rate. If you're earning less, you pay back at a slower rate. The real debt problem that should be addressed is that students who start college and borrow money and don't finish, and they're often the ones with, in national terms, a lower amount of debt. Maybe it's $15,000 instead of $25,000 to $30,000. If you don't finish college, you're much more likely to default on your loans than if you do finish college. And a significant part of the default problem, those who can't pay their loans back, would be addressed if we were better at having a higher percentage of students complete college instead of starting and leaving before they graduate.
More and more people are affected by the cost of college, which in its own weird way is actually good news. That is to say, there are many more students now in post-secondary institutions in the United States than there were when I was in college. It is often a misconception that there's a correlation, a direct correlation between the stated price and the actual price. It can happen that you can go to a college with a much lower stated tuition and come out with more debt. So for students who come from families that cannot afford to pay the tuition charge and the other fees, the answer has been, we'll take out a loan. And that has led to the rise of a very profitable, expansive, private loan industry in the United States.
Loans will be worth it in the future?
I think it depends on your situation, but for me, yeah.
If that is your only means of going to school, I would definitely take out loans, but just be wary of that you will have to pay this money back more than you took out.
I think that higher education is obviously better than like having no education, but like it should be accessible for everyone.
Money shouldn't hinder people from being able to get some level of higher education, because like maybe like 50 years ago it wouldn't have made sense because a lot of people would just go into the like working field or force just with a high school education, but now you can't really do that.
More and more college students worry about their future, and it's not that they're cowards and we were brave, it's that the world looks more difficult. And even though even when you look at those statistics about how much more opportunity someone who's gone to college will have in life, professions that looked stable when I was a college student don't look stable anymore. The debt that students take on for college now is larger than it was when I was there, even if you allow for inflation. Costs have risen faster than the rate of inflation, as much as it is anything else. There are a couple of dozen institutions in the United States, like Columbia, that don't require you to borrow money as part of your financial aid package. The places that don't have loans as part of their need-based financial aid packages enroll less than 1% of the freshmen in the United States, so that doesn't make a big dent in that problem nationally. The increased amount of borrowing now, I would say, is largely attributable to the fact that the cost of college has gone up so much faster than inflation and faster than the level of government support for financial aid.
The most significant factor in the student loan problem and in the rapid rise in tuition has been public disinvestment from public colleges and universities. That's the core of the problem. At the end of the day, everybody would agree that public institutions, especially community colleges, are not getting enough revenue support from the state. The result of that is that they have to charge the students more. Somebody has to pay the cost of attending college. Because if you think about it, attending any college involves a lot of costs, direct and indirect.
More students would succeed in college if high schools did a better job. When a college admits a student, whether that student's had a perfect high school education or a good high school education or an average high school education, then it's the college's job to make things work, to give that student the chance to succeed, to give the student the support, the courses, the advising to succeed. And colleges in great numbers aren't doing that.
What worries me is that we talk about education more and more as a commodity, as something that you pay for and that you get back from in the form of dollars. That it is a place to gain certain skills, marketable skills, which it certainly is and always has been, but that's all it is, that it's not a place as much as it used to be for self-discovery and for community building.
The benefits of more people going to college, having access to college, being successful in college, graduating from college, the benefits go to the society as a whole. Our economy will not grow at the rate that it could if we don't have a higher percentage of our students going to college.
So one of the things, it's not even that how fair is it to everyone, it's just it's different amounts of fairness to individuals because of everybody's individual financial situation.
The only way the country can be better, the only way the country can move forward is to improve the chances and the opportunities for low-income and first-generation students. The difference in the rate of college attendance between those who are privileged and those who aren't is increasing instead of decreasing. Colleges should discourage students from taking out an excessive amount of loans. College should also discourage a student from working 40 hours a week to avoid taking out any loans, because that's going to be damaging to the student's academic record. It would be better to graduate with $20,000 in loans than to graduate with a D average.
To tell any young person that it's not worth it to go to college is extremely bad advice.
It's a terrible decision not to go to college. And people who use outliers like Bill Gates, who didn't finish college, as an example, are just being dishonest and deceitful. 0.001% of the people like Bill Gates are going to be that successful.
We need to reinvest in public higher education. That's the lion's share of the problem. But we need to reinvest in a lot of things in this country, like in the infrastructure, like in early childhood education, like in healthcare. And this election, as bad as it is on some levels, that conversation is actually, it seems to me, starting to happen. so that at least the candidates are talking about these issues.